worksheet number 7, idea generation, or how Dr. Sean Wise like to put it, opportunity generation. A. Customer segments that we are currently part of. The top 3 for this category are: 1 is university students, total points of 100. Secondly is LGBTQ plus, coming out of total points of 75. And thirdly is eco-conscious, coming out of total points of 48. B is customer segments that we used to be part of. The top 3 for this category are: first is high school students, coming out total point is 125. Secondly is sports, coming out total points of 6. And thirdly is wearing glasses, coming out of total points of 6 as well. C is customer segments that we want to be part of or we're passionate about. The top 3 for this category are: first is elderly people, coming at a total points of 50. Secondly is women in crisis, coming at a total points of 20. And lastly is entrepreneurs, tying at a total of 20 as well. And this is the worksheet for number 7, idea generation.
So the 3 different potential segments that we'll be focusing on is the LGBTQ plus community, university students, and high school students. So for the LGBTQ, their unmet need is low representation, then them not being able to figure out what to do about their mental health, being able to come out in a safe space and feel accepted. And then with university students, along with those things, there's a lot of other needs that kids our age also need, which is, for example, finding a proper job or an internship, sustainable finances, and another thing that's not so related is bad professors. So people we could look up to, potentially those who teach us. And then with high school students, at a growing age, you already have a lot of stuff going on. And because of that, they have, again, like mental health issues, identifying what they want to do with the rest of their lives, and just sort of figuring out their identity. And the one that we'll be focusing on for majority of the time is the LGBTQ community, and then after that is university students, and then after that is high school students. In terms of the adoption curve analysis, since we're focusing on the LGBTQ community, it's something that applies to obviously all segments: early adopters, early majority, late majority, and laggards. They all have a problem. They all recognize that there's a problem, but they don't know too much about it. So for example, the early adopters and early majority are the ones that know more about it, and then the early adopters are the one that are sort of paying for it, trying to figure it out, trying to solve it. Their behaviors in terms of different segments is that early adopters, they have online spaces, different mental health resources. They're learning through Google by asking questions, and then they're learning through trial and error. And then for early majority, they struggle a lot with mental health. They do have online spaces, but of course it's difficult to find people with similar sort of headspace as you. And then with late majority, they mostly feel lonely, they get bullied, they don't know what's going on. It's very hard to figure out exactly what the problem is. And then finally, for externally observable behaviors, so for those who do recognize it, going to different events, attending, like I said, different events, going to gay bars, in school, using mental health resources, and again, an online space or just a safe space with similar minds. So for example, online queer spaces, or just within your friend circle, or any sort of group that has that's going through something similar as you.
So now we're going to be moving on to worksheet 10. We're still focusing on the same customer segment, which is the LGBTQ plus community, and that same problem. So the offline channels where you would find these early adopters will be mental health clinics, as we stated earlier, like CAMH, 519, gay bars, and like queer spaces around Toronto, such as Cruise and Tangos. They'll be hanging out at LGBTQ plus events. They will be in the LGBTQ plus school clubs and events as well, and they're going to be hanging out potentially in like community centers, in safe spaces. Okay, so channels related to social media, that we will see our segment in will be queer Facebook groups. They will be part of the group of people who tweet using hashtags that like connect queer people together. So one's like called Heavenly Gaze, and that's just like you post a selfie on Twitter of yourself and then you hashtag that, and like it's how people connect to each other. And then we will also see them in people who follow other queer movements, such as the Get Real movement on Instagram. And then we will also see them as people who watch LGBTQ plus YouTubers and maybe are in the comment sections of those YouTubers, and people participating in other queer online spaces like Tumblr and Reddit. Yeah. Okay, so D is channels and leveraging online forums and groups. So we found a couple of different online forums. 3 of them are on Reddit. So the first one is What's Your Coming Out Story? Another one's just coming out, and then LGBTQ plus advice, and those are all on Reddit. And then another one is on meetup.com, and that's just LGBTQ meetups, and it's like an online space. Okay, so some relevant influencers are Rose and Rosie, which are 2 lesbian vloggers on YouTube. We have Shannon Beveridge, who's also a YouTuber and just like an influencer. And then we have Nikita Dragon. She is a transgender influencer and blogger, and I think YouTuber as well. And then Jazz Jennings, who's also transgender, and Charlotte Day Wilson, who is a singer who's also from Toronto. Okay, so channels used by competitors. We're seeing our competitors on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and we also see people advertising on Tinder and Grindr as well. Okay, so traditional offline tactics would be go to gay bars, meet through Tinder, then in person, meet online, then in person, LGBTQ plus events, school groups, and Pride. Thank you.
All right, so for step 11, choosing a beachhead. So our customer segment is the LGBTQ plus community. Out of those, our 3 possible beachheads are people who are already on dating apps, people who attend LGBTQ plus events, and people who already follow the Get Real movement. And based on the factors that were used to assess them, currency, access, size, growing passion, activity, or active and virility, the third option was the one with the most scores, which was the LGBTQ people who already follow the Get Real movement, which is understandable as this is a topic that is in the air and is being discussed, but there's also a sense of stigma around it, which makes it the perfect beachhead for our particular customer segment.
Okay, so now we're going to be moving on to worksheet 12, which is the interview questions. So we start out with the introduction, which was already given, which is thank you for taking time to sit down and chat with me. We think you're part of the group of the problem we're trying to solve. I'm hoping you will ignore your polite nature and simply share your hard truth with me. So the questions that we chose to do were, first, how would you describe yourself? And then if the individual doesn't say what their sexual or gender identity is, then we're going to ask, do you self-identify as a member of the LGBTQ plus community, to make sure that they're in our beachhead. Then we're gonna go down and start asking, do you think our school systems include enough LGBTQ plus topics in the curriculum? And if they ask for any examples, we'll give the example of sex ed. So next, do you think our school systems provide enough support to the LGBTQ youth? And then, can you tell me about some challenges you experience or have experienced as a result of this lack of support or inclusion in the curriculum? Then, when was the last time you tried to solve this problem? And what services/tools did you use to try to solve this problem? And then, can you tell me why this is a problem for you? Okay, and how did you find your current solution? Then, what's not ideal about the solution? So since we have 2 problems, next, once this is done, we're going to go in and start talking about representation in the media. So our first question for that is, do you feel like you see accurate representation of the LGBTQ plus community in the media? For example, TV shows, movies, and magazines. And then, what do you think accurate representation looks like? So our next question is, what are some challenges you've experienced as a result of the current representation of the LGBTQ community / the representation that you saw growing up? When was the last time you tried to solve this problem? What services/tools did you use to try to solve this problem? Can you tell me why this is a problem for you? Then, how did you find your current solution? And what's not ideal about this solution? And then our last question is, do I have permission to follow up with you in the future? And we're gonna ask for the email. Thank you.